Ashley, welcome to Disabled and Proud. How are you
What's
this
happening?
evening?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got a bit of a croaky voice today, and I'm pretty sure it's because I spent my weekend with my nephews and they were coughing and sputtering all over me.
Oh
So,
God, yeah, I hear that.
yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks so much. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this interview. I think there's a lot of things that we're going to discuss, and I think it's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I like to ask every single guest the exact same first question. And
Yeah.
that is, how do you refer to your disability?
Um, wow, that's a good question. In what respect? For me as a person, I always looked at it as something what has made me realize that there's other ways around things to achieve and be successful.
Mhm.
So yeah, my disability is something I look at as a positive now, where previously I looked at it as a negative, to be totally
Yeah.
honest. Yeah. And now I've fully got my mind in that position to accept it. A lot of great things are happening, like what's happening right now. So it's all
Yeah.
good.
And for you with acceptance,
Hmm.
what was that journey like? Because acceptance isn't the same for everyone and it comes to everyone at different stages in their life. And I was wondering, what was that journey like for you to fully accepting and maybe in some ways embracing disability more than you
Yeah,
had
sure.
been?
Um, Boy, it's been a long journey for one. You
Yeah.
know, I've been disabled from birth and
Mhm.
I've lived a quote unquote able lifestyle until 2013. That's when it all changed.
Yeah.
So majority of the time I kind of not ignored it. Like I embraced it in theory, I guess. Like, I had
Yeah.
the great friends and people around me who when we were kids playing out and stuff, whatever they were doing, they found a way for me to be able to do it. So I kind of
Mhm.
carried that kind of mindset all the way across the board. And
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me, a lot of it was knockbacks from people who are not disabled. And if that's
Mhm.
employment, if that's the silly little things like that in theory, even going somewhere and you got to worry that if they're going to even let me in because of insurance purposes or whatever the case would be. So it
Yeah.
took me to the age of, I think, 23, 24.
Yeah.
So my disability prior, I had to wear calipers like Forrest Gump. So I used to wear those. So yeah, literally. So I went to primary school, secondary school, not special school, just ordinary schools.
Yeah.
And I just went through life like that. And then it came to a point where I had to make a big choice to end up being a full-time wheelchair user to preserve the my spine, if that makes sense. But I'm
Yeah.
sure when you get into that, I'll give you a bit more information. But 2013 is when I really embraced it, and it's been doing a lot of positive things, and I got to achieve and do more than I ever thought I'd be able to. So yeah, it's all good, but it
Yeah.
took a long time.
And I love that you said, I've always been disabled because that's what the reality of what it's like when you're disabled from birth, because I'm the exact same, is that I don't actually know what life is like without disability. So
Of
I
course,
always forget that being disabled isn't the norm. So when I
for
wake up in the
sure.
morning, I'm like, oh, like, I'm me, I'm disabled. Like, obviously, I don't say this, but it's not until I go out into the wider world and I'm like, oh, like it isn't normal not to have like a functioning body. And I
Yeah.
always forget that. And what was childhood like for you, knowing that you were disabled?
Um, I'll say it like this. To be honest with you, it didn't feel any different. Like
Yeah.
all my friends are able-bodied, partner, etc. Like all those things were just the normal stuff. So yeah,
Mm.
I think the only thing what was always been a challenge for me, and it is even now, is that I don't know how to process positive credit to myself. So I would do things what everyone would say, yay, and I go, yay. Okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that's the only real negative side of my disability and everything and how I feel about it is that I don't give myself credit. So I'm the harshest critic to myself. And whenever I do something, someone will say that's major. I would say it's minor, if that makes sense.
It does. And I also think maybe that is a trait of people who do have disabilities,
Yeah, I
because I
think that.
think
Yeah,
we're constantly comparing ourselves to, like, I always say, average Joe blogs. And what I mean by that is like 2 hands, 2 feet, your immune system works. There is no reason to like label yourself as disabled if you're average Joe blogs. And because we've had such a lack of representation throughout, so
yeah,
like film, media, whatever, no wonder we constantly compare ourselves to able-bodied people or the non-disabled. And actually, what you're saying is so right, is that when you reflect back on all the things you've done, you're like, yeah, like it's great that I've done these things, but I still want to achieve more. And it's not, in
Yeah,
your eyes, it's not as big as what it could be or what it should be. But actually, when you take
sure.
a step back and reflect and you realize, holy shit, like I did some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I had that happen to me. When did it happen to me? The other day, a few
Yeah.
times. Like I'm right at the moment. I've been using TikTok quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
which I never do. And for the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, I've been getting like a massive reception. I go live, I get 100 plus people in there all the time, give
Yeah.
me gifts, promoting, give me ideas, like making me realize how much I do inspire people and motivate people to achieve. And, it's the parents who have kids with disabilities. They're
Yeah.
like, wow, so hold on, I thought this was a dark light. Seeing you, it's starting to look much more brighter over here. Like there's possibilities that my kid can do this and the third. And it's silly things like just knowing that you could drive a car. Some
Yeah.
parents generally didn't know that their kids could possibly drive when they're older. And I'm like, for sure. So it's stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So then it will hit me. But TikTok's definitely been doing that a lot lately. Like it's crazy. It's going crazy right now.
Oh, I'm excited for you because I think there's nothing better, I think, than being able to help the younger generation of disabled people because, like, wildly, disabled people don't come from disabled people all the time. Like, we're
For
not,
sure.
like,
No.
you can
No.
become disabled at any point in time. So, no wonder that education isn't there because it's not
Mhm.
like when you are disabled, it's not like you get a badge that's like, welcome to the club, like here are all the rules, this is what you can and can't do. Like that doesn't exist. So the only place that you can get this information is online. And I
Yeah.
think how amazing is that you're able to like educate the younger disabled community and be like, guys, like you can do everything you want to do, and yeah, it will be
Sure.
completely different, but you can still do it.
Yeah. Like I say, when you get into it and I'll tell you the journey and the things I've done, etc., etc., hopefully people who do watch this will say, okay, because that's nothing I worry about. I see with the internet, unfortunately, there's a group of disabled people who really over milk their disability on the internet, each to their own. But I'm not that guy. I know, okay, everyone says that I could be a lot more known if I'd done the little, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm
I
like, I
know
can't do
it's
that.
actually so,
Yeah,
it's
that's whack.
so funny that you say this.
Right.
It's honestly it's really because I have literally just texted someone and been like, I really want to call someone out for this particular thing that they've done. And I was like, the only problem is that their audience is not for like their target market is not the disabled community. I was like, but what they're doing perpetuates a really, really negative stereotype of the disabled community.
So, okay,
And
so
it's
hold on. So, are you allowed to say who that is?
no, because I'm recording. I'll tell you
Okay,
off.
cool.
I'll
Yeah,
tell
for
you
sure.
off screen.
Because I think I know why. Because I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I think
But
a
I hear you
couple of
though.
people have called this person out quite recently as well. Someone that I really like respect as well called them out, and I was like, no, I fully back you. But there is, and I think people need to understand this quite clearly, is that there's making content to be educational and helpful, but there's also making content using your disability in what you can perceive as a quote unquote positive way that actually harms the disabled community, because
For
there
sure.
are certain things that perpetrate very negative stereotypes of the disabled community, and there are a lot of people who do that for their own gain, and it's not necessarily for the gain of the masses.
Yeah. Because the reality is this, I always say this. If you're true, if you're really about disability in a positive way, like you say, and you're disabled yourself, any kind of leverage or name or clout you get, you naturally want to bring other people in the same boat to sail with you. The ones who don't, you get what I mean? And I had it all because I'm not going to say names, but there's certain people who are big in the game or whatever who see me. I know they see me,
Yeah.
but they're out there, they don't see me. Do you get what I mean? And it's only
Yeah.
because you're threatened by me, because the difference is you had to be a certain way to be that guy or that woman, but I'm just myself and I'm kind of getting similar to your level already. And you might have done that for 10 years. I've been doing it for 10 minutes. You
Yeah.
get what I mean? So it's just that. But my whole positive thing about disability is that I don't want to think it's something special what I'm doing. I'm just doing, treat me like everybody person. I just work hard, I do well. But yeah, the disability I get, you can say, yeah, but it might have been a bit of a challenge to go outside and face the public like that. I get all that. But I would never milk off it.
No. No.
I'm very humble. I say thank you, appreciate you, and that's why my TikTok's doing so well, because a lot of people in there have got people from all different disabilities, etc., etc. And it's usually parents with their kids, and They always like, you're amazing because what you're carrying yourself is like exactly how you are, and I don't even know you. Because some of
Yeah.
my friends who be in my life who knew me since I was 5 years old, I say I'm so proud because they've seen me grow. They've seen this
Yeah.
is exactly who I am, like how I'm talking to you. I'm not on here thinking, oh, it's so and so with this type of podcast, so I've got to be this way or that. Like, no
Yeah.
disrespect, but I'm not like that for nobody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
But I
yeah,
think
man.
that's the way that I personally am very much a big believer. And if you don't like me, then that's not my
Yeah, man.
problem. Like I am who I am. I'm not going to change the parts of me that I really like. So like it or lump it, this is what it
Exactly.
is.
Yeah, man. And I'd be sad because I feel like I'll be honest, because you got to understand, I guess, people with disability, obviously, we always hear that it's limited choices, limited work, limited
Yeah.
opportunities. So if you're the one who gets luckily pulled by somebody, but they want you to act in this type of fashion, if you can do it, you're going to do it. So I'm not against it. I get it. It's
Yeah.
just a shame that once you built yourself, you forget that you can still bring somebody in.
Yeah. I'm all about the abundance mindset. I think there's enough space for everybody to talk about what they want to talk about in this space because it's
Listen,
very
there's so much work out there now. There's so much opportunity now than it ever been. And just knowing how to utilize it and not get too carried away with what you made and think about what you're going to make next. And that's my attitude. Do you know what I mean? And so far, I've been doing all right. Doing all right.
yeah. So, how about Ashley? You talk us through your journey because I'm so intrigued to learn a lot more about it. And I'm going to let you have the floor space and wax lyrical about your journey with disability, acceptance, work. Feel
Uh,
free.
um, how far do you want to go back?
Do you know what?
I'll
You
give you.
could start at the beginning
Yeah,
if you
I'll
really
give you the
wanted
whole.
to. I'm quite happy for that.
Yeah, I'll give you the intro of how I always kind of the easiest way for me to explain it.
Yeah.
So I've been disabled from birth. My
Mhm.
mom had me, and at the time when she had me, when I came out, my legs were bent and it was stuck into my chest like this, and my
Yeah.
feet were twisted or something like that. Anyway, so my mom had me at 21 years old. Um, they told her that I wouldn't be able to walk, I wouldn't be able to stand, I wouldn't be able to have a life, basically.
Yeah.
My mom was somebody who's very strong-minded, and she was like, "Nah, I ain't hearing that." So
Yeah.
she fought for me, fought for me. I ended up having an operation and grew on the street. Spent many years there, growing up as a kid, and they did like an operation to straighten my legs back out, putting plaster cast, a lot of physio, this, that, and the third. And that's when I got introduced to wearing calipers and
Uh-huh.
splints. You know what I mean? So that was from probably from I was born to about 5. That's when it started happening.
Yeah.
And my mum was a quote unquote single mum. My dad wasn't around. I'm
Yeah.
not going to explain why. It might be a bit too deep to say on here. But cut a story short, she just raised me on her own. And I
Yeah.
guess you always worked. So I think in her mind frame, she was like, I just want you to fit in and be like everybody else. So there was never no sugarcoat and like, oh, he's special. It was none of that. It was just,
Yeah.
you're Ash, you're my child. If you disrespect, you're gonna get and that's that. Real life, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
you know, it was the best thing because I live a quote unquote, like you say, able life. I don't look at disability like that. Only because of the world I'm in now, it's all around me, it's different.
Yeah.
But my whole childhood and stuff growing up and that, it wasn't like that. So I never experienced what people maybe disability do experience, i.e., being bullied, i.e., this, that, and the third. I never really experienced that stuff.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I was with the cool guys, so no one didn't trouble me in school, nothing
Yeah.
like that. Just, you know what I mean? So that was how it was growing up. And then probably when I'll tell you a key point actually. So I used to always wear calipers from 5 years old,
Yeah.
and it's original ones. And if I said if you seen Forrest Gump, he had the special boots, and they had the post what went into it.
Yeah.
I wore exactly those. So you imagine all the way through primary school, all my friends are playing football. And because I could wear leg braces, I could play football, I could kick and whatever else. But
Mhm.
everyone's buying all the little football boots to wear at school. And I'm here with the
Yeah.
blue suede shoes with yellow trousers, looking lost. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? So anyway, all the way through my childhood, I used to wear those. But
Yeah.
everyone who would know me in primary school said Ash was cool. I was always involved, always trying to be part of everything and whatever else. And then I remember the best time of my life was, you know, when you finish like primary school, you got a 6 week holiday before you start secondary school.
Yeah.
I went to Grosvenor Street appointment to get remeasured for my splints and stuff, my calipers. And they're like, we got some great news for you. I'm like, what? I never get great news from you. And they were like, basically, instead of you having the calipers with the poles that you have to get special shoes and put them in, it's actually a plastic shield. I was like, okay, that means you can wear any trainer you want. And
Yeah.
everybody who knows me knows I'm a trainer person. So I was like, what? So that was like the best thing ever. And that's when my dad was around for a moment. And he's got a lot of money or whatever. And he took me out and bought me like 5 to 10 pairs of trainers. But that was the biggest changing point.
Yeah.
Plus, that was one of the first proper positive steps because when I'm walking and I'm wearing a tracksuit, I'm not wearing boots that look like I'm going to the army. It looks weird. My friends are
Yeah.
wearing Air Max 90s or they wear this, that, and a third. So now I've got to fill that gap now and be able to do all that. And now I'm a trainer addict and it will never stop.
And that must have been such an important like moment, as you say, for you, because it was the first time that you could go out and like buy shoes that you wanted because you knew that you could wear them and there wasn't anything
100%.
limiting, why you couldn't wear them. And I think actually, like, no wonder that was such a big part of your life, because for not having choice to then suddenly being told, like, do you know what, it's free reign, like you can do whatever you want. No wonder you were like, oh my god, I love trainers.
Yeah, I'll be honest, because it was, if you saw me standing up, you would never notice I had a disability. The
Yeah.
only giveaway was those hideous shoes with posts going through. So
Yeah.
soon that was eliminated, I'll put on Air Forces or this, that, and a third at that time. That's why a lot of people who even see me now, who see
Yeah.
me in a wheelchair, they're puzzled. They're like, why are you, what happened to you?
Yeah.
They never knew. I'm like, mate, I always had a disability. They're like, no, you didn't. These are my classmate. I'm like, yeah, mate. You know what I mean? So that's what it was. That trainer part was a massive, massive thing. And that's why
Mhm.
people always see me. I've got trainers on, and some people think it's showing off or whatever. You can think what you like, but it's mentally like a thing. I can't stop it. Even my son,
Yeah.
he got loads of trainers because I put that in his head, and he don't
Yeah.
even care. He ruins
You
them
will
straight
love
away.
trainers. You
Yeah, he
will.
don't care. He don't care. He likes them. Like, yeah, this is nice, thanks, dad. But he beats them up. But it's just me. That's something, and that was a massive
Yeah.
turning point. Imagine I'm about to go into secondary school, so that's a whole
Yeah.
new world. I don't need to be having these suede shoes. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, so from that side of it, I started secondary school. I had a bad time at school because the school was great. I got on with everybody and whatever else, but on the academic side of it, I was naughty. And I mean like in a sense where not like I was bad, but I'm funny, a crack joke. So
Yeah.
I didn't really take it serious. And then what would happen is that when they used to give me like a sign saying you got to sort it out, I'd catch up and get the work done. But I had a bad moment where my leg braces used to break, I wouldn't go to school.
Oh
So my
wow.
calipers could take me like 3 months. So I'd be off school 3 or 4 months out of the time whenever I broke them, and I refused to go to school. And I'm not gonna blame the school, but certain things happened anyway, what they agreed to, and I did what they asked, and then I still didn't get what I should have got. Put it that way.
Yeah.
And then that was probably when I was there. That's when I was like what, 15 or whatever it was. And then I remember I went into like I guess depression or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And I never believed that. I've been around people who have mental health, etc., growing up and whatever, so I'm used to it. But I never thought I'd go into depression, and I generally did. And I
Yeah.
was in it probably for about maybe a few months or something like that, where I
Yeah.
just locked myself in my room. Nothing was going right for me. I was naturally good at making music, but I never had the confidence to pursue it. It's just
Yeah.
all the doubt of being this disabled person just came crashing down, to be honest. And yeah, I hid in my room for so long, and then my right hand friend, he kicked my door in basically and said, "Listen, don't wash yourself, you stink, and
Yeah.
let's get life. Come on." And then after that moment, it changed like that, my whole attitude. And then yeah, so skipping to that from that age, I went back to college, got back my English, got my maths back, started to invest in myself bit by bit. And then the big bang, what was the life changer thing why we're here right now,
Yeah.
in 2012, I watched the Paralympics
Hmm.
in London. So you got to understand, the only person I've seen on TV with disability was Ade Dapitan, how do you say his
Yeah.
name? Cool guy. Um, he was a good example. I see him, wow, like this guy's great. But you know what? Actually, so let me go back a bit. I just remember something actually. I forgot, but a lot of people don't know. So when I was in secondary school, I think like year 8 or something,
Yeah.
my PE teacher, Mrs. Lyles, said, "Have you ever thought about disability sport?" I was like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
Like, they say people do sports. And she's like, "Yeah, they do athletics, this, that, and the third, whatever." We got a local club in Haringey Borough. If you put me in touch with somebody, they saw me. I was like, "Yeah, you should do sport." And I
Yeah.
remember I used like a standard wheelchair like we used to see in Tesco's against, and I had to do a race, and I won the race in the borough. So I was number one in the borough. So then at the end, I got invited to go to Blackpool to complete the nationals thing or whatever it was. And I remember I wheelchair raced. with guys all in racing chairs, which I didn't even know what
Yeah.
that was. It just looked way better than what this metal heavy thing is. And I
Yeah.
had to race against them, and I won on a gold medal. And I done shot put, javelin, and I got the silver. And
And
the
that is
funniest thing is,
incredible.
and the worst thing is, this is where you're gonna laugh because this happened to me twice, but I tell you the next bit. So that time I had food poisoning. So I remember I was throwing up all the way onto the basically the lady knocked on my door and saying like, come to this thing, you should come. I was like, no, I don't want to go. My mom's like, you got to go. It's Blackpool for the weekend. I'm like, no, I feel sick, and I've been throwing up, whatever. Anyway, she convinced me. I didn't want to say no, so I went. So I was really ill anyway, and I won all those medals. So I got into the idea of, wow, what's this about? And that's when I
Yeah.
met Ade. I met him at the Haringey one the race before, and he gave my medal. And not
Yeah.
to be racist, man, I don't see no black people disabled. So I was like,
Yeah.
guy I can relate to. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So that,
Exactly.
but that was it. So went back to school, I was meant to continue, but the lady who was like the hookup, shall we say, she ended up going to Barbados, got married, didn't see her again. So that whole thing shut down. I'll never forget that. I was like, what? But anyway, fast forward back to 2012, I watched David Weir, gold
uh,
medalist, veteran, love him to death, big fan. He knows this. And I watched him in the medals doing his races. And again, I'm all about identifying people's character, like where your background's from. Because
yeah.
without being funny, a lot of people who could do disability sport usually would be quote unquote the smug ones or the well-off posh people who have the money who can spend thousands on a wheelchair,
Yeah.
etc., etc. But he looked like a guy from the street, in my opinion, like the council, whatever that kind of where I'm from. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So anyway, I watched him compete. I watched him all the medals, and it was like I always go with my gut. And I had advert came up and was like, "Hey, if you're inspired, go on a website." The simple like cliche kind of advert. But I thought, you know what? I had
I'm
my
gonna do
iPad on
it.
my lap. I thought I want to have a go. I
Yeah.
typed in, and then I found the racing place where I met Ade years ago as a kid. It was a local sports center place. They said they had a little racing club. So I thought, all right, let me go down there. And there was this guy called Gary, old fella, like he was just there and he weren't really pushing much. Like every time I looked, I always felt like he was watching me.
Yeah.
So I did a session anyway. Can't so he's like, "How you doing, mate? Yeah, my name's Gary. I'm new to the club. I'm not trying to be an athlete. I just do it for fitness, but I like to find talent." I'm like, "Cool." Because you're one of them. Like you could be good at this stuff. Now I was still going through that transition of believing that anything good for me will never happen. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially from random people, etc., etc. So he was like, "Mate, you need to get a racing chair and train with me. We go on the streets, we go on the high road, we go on the A406s and the A13s." I'm like, "What? On a
Wow.
racing chair?" Yeah, for real. The guy who was a coach overheard the conversation. And he was like, "Look, man, that racing chair fits you well. Because of my disability, I'm not gonna ever really race no more. Do you wanna buy it off me?" And now obviously these things cost a lot of money, whatever, whatever. Got the money at the end of the day, got the racing chair, and then we started training up and down on the streets. There was a news clip of David Weir after the palaces happened, obviously, and whatever else, and he was basically saying that his legacy is to set up an academy, and we're
Hmm.
calling it the Weir Archer Academy because Jenny Archer is his coach, so they're both going to merge the names together and set up academy and find talent. And when I actually sat and watched the interview, it was the most. I got goosebumps from it. I never forget it. Like they asked the lady Jenny, like, "What do you look for in an athlete? Somebody who's hungry, somebody who wants to achieve, somebody who's desperate in the right way. Cool, this is the plan. You're going to race at Stoke Mandeville. David Weir's team is going to be there. Everyone goes there. This is the big meetup."
Yeah.
He's like, "Don't worry about nothing. I'm going to book it. I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to do everything you need. All you need to do
It's
is be
turn
there
up.
at this time. Just turn up." So I turned up. I raced. Obviously, they put you on levels of how fast you are because they didn't have a time yet. They kind of assumed that I might be on a lower level. I just breezed
Yeah.
past, beat everybody clean. So everyone's like, "Who's this guy?" I had a bright, luminous green chair, racing chair, but it was a proper one. Everyone's looking at me like, "Who's this black guy? All these tattoos and this wicked racing chair, and just beat
Where
all
has
these
he
low
come
guys."
from?
Right. So anyway, we've done the race, whatever, whatever. I've done well, and then I saw Gary talking to Jenny Archer. Next thing, I get a card given to me from what I remember. He got a card or something with her number. I said, "Give her a ring." So I must have gave her a ring. No, I texted her and said, "Ring me when you got a chance. It's my number." She rang me on a Sunday and she was like, "Hi, how you doing?" I just want to say, "Well done, you look good at racing. Where are you from? Like, where'd you get the chair from?" Because Gary told me you're not a part of anybody.
Yeah.
Like, how come you're even getting a chair? Like, that's a big investment. Like, I was like, I just told her I'm hungry to do well in life. And I feel like I always have strong arms. I'm always quite quick at pushing my wheelchair, which I used to use on odd occasions growing up. On my summer
Yeah.
holiday breaks, I'd use it like that. And I lived on a massive hill. I used to push up that hill all the time and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of training, I guess, was always built in me without realizing what it's for,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So, cut a story short, she was like, "Cool, I want you to come and meet me in Richmond Park. That's where David Weir trains. That's the massive park. Let's put you through your tests." I was like, "Cool." Put the phone down. I was jumping for joy. I'm like, "Wow, this woman sounds really nice." She's like, she called me her black son because we got the same surname. Like, so I
Yeah.
rang Gary. Gary, yes, Ash. Hear what? I got to go to Richmond Park. He's like, "What?" I can't swear, so I'm not gonna swear. But he was like, "What, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." He was like, "When? Tomorrow?" All right, cool. What time will be there for? I think it was like 7. It was in the summer. 7 o'clock. Richmond Park
Yeah.
closed at 10. Um, he was like, "Cool. I'm gonna come pick you up from your house, and I'm gonna take you there. I'll wait in the car park. You train around, then I'll drop you back home, and then I'll go home." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What?" The guy lives in East here. I live in North. So he'll come down to North, pick me up, go to Southwest London, which is a
Yeah.
nightmare to go to at that bloody time. I remember it taking us like 3 hours to get there. He picked me up at 4, and I just got there on time at 6:58. Never forget it. So
Ah,
I went into the park. He was like, "Ash, nice to meet you." I met a few of the other dudes. And at the end, she was like, "Here, what? There's a cyclist called Pete. You're going to go with him." And she's like, "Take him on a small loop." And I was like, "What's a small loop?" She goes, "Don't worry, you'll see." Got down the town, right? Down this long ass hill. Basically, it's a 3.5 mile push.
uh-huh.
And you've got a cyclist who's pushing at 17, 18 miles an hour. And you've got to stay next to him the
Wow.
whole time. I promise you. So,
What I'm loving about this story is that
yeah,
everything seems super serendipitous. So, like,
I'll be real with
even
you. I
what
don't
you
even
were
know what that means.
saying, even what you were saying from like pushing up a hill, even though you were, not always using your wheelchair, you had built that muscle and like it was
Definitely.
there. And
I'm going
like
to tell you the hill. You're going to
you
die.
did
I'm
you
going to tell
didn't
you.
know that you were going to need that later on. And and it's Gary, by the way, sounds like an absolute legend. I think we all need a
That's a
Gary in
Gary.
our life.
For
Do you know what he
sure.
reminds me of? Have
Yeah.
you ever seen It's a Wonderful Life, the Christmas film?
I'll be honest with you. I got the worst memory, but I probably have it for sure.
So there's this, I think the angel in it is called Klaus. I'm pretty sure he is. It's my favorite Christmas film. If I don't get this right, I'll be annoyed. But he turns up and he kind of like appears kind of out of nowhere and like
Yeah.
kind
At the
of
right time.
guides, yeah, at the right time and like guides the main character George Bailey on the right path of life. And this is exactly what it sounds like. And I'm so engrossed in this story. Like I can't wait for you to carry
Right.
on.
I'm going to tell you. All right, cool. So, anyway, met Pete. He's like, "Nice to meet you, Ash." We got on.
Yeah.
We've done this small loop. And so, like I said, you go down this little hill and you go on this like a kind of a gradient bank and you kept going forever. I'm like, bloody hell, when is this going to stop? But I was just so excited to think, this is the guy I saw on TV's coach telling me to do this. I can't say
Yeah.
no. So I was just boom, boom, boom. Then I caught up with the other dudes who've been training. They're like, "What's good, man?" I'm like, "You're right." And I started going past them. They're thinking, "Who the hell?" They came to go on up the hill. There's like a big hill. It goes up, then it
Uh-huh.
dips, and it goes even more all the way up. Then it goes back down, and that's how you go back round to the car park. It's the horriblest hill to do after just doing 3.2 miles,
Yeah, I can
right? In
imagine.
heat, real heat. So I just like blast up the hill, boom, boom, and I got the hill so quick. Even my man had to change the gear on the bike. He was like, "Bloody hell, mate, you're eating up these hills." So I got up the hill now, come back down. He goes straight to Jenny. So they're having a little conversation. And I'm shy. I'm just like, let me just leave them to see what obviously she's gonna ask him how I've
Yeah.
done. Anyway, he comes to me. She was like, "I heard that you've done good, mate." And I'm like, "Nah, that's all right." She was like, she's like, "What do you think of racing?" I'm like, "No, racing ain't for me." She's like, "What?" I said, "Nah, mate. If that's what you got to do every day, nah, that ain't for me." And she's like, "Shut up. It is for you. And you're gonna be here tomorrow doing it." And I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
Yeah, so they feel like, dude, I want to see you do the hill runs. So she made me, after doing all of that, she made me do 10 hill runs. So up the hill, down, up the hill, down. And when I was doing it with the guys, I was beating them every time. Up the
Yeah.
hill, down, kind of thing. Yeah. So that was that. Gary hasn't seen anything. Gary's sitting in the car park having a coffee because that's how big the bloody park is. I get in the car, he's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" I told him
Yeah.
everything. He was like, "Yeah, I told you." He was like, "I don't know them coach films." So then the icing on the cake where it started to really go mad in the story, after I'd done the training, she was like, "Can you come back tomorrow? But instead of coming to the park, can you go to Kings Meadow Athletic Stadium, which is around the corner, and you can meet David?" And that's I'm thinking, "Lord, David, where, you know?" So boom. Gary knows what the plan is. "Ash, I'm getting you tomorrow a bit earlier." I'm like, "Gary, man, here's some money. I don't want nothing, Ash. I just want you to just focus. Stop worrying
Yeah.
about money and returning my favor. There's no favor here. I love it." let's go. I was like, all right, cool. This is when it was like, this is something what made the difference to my lifestyle, my mindset now. So I get to the track. There's about 30 athletes. All the parents are there because with the park, because it's in the part of a lot of people. All the youngsters don't really go there because they're
Yeah.
not. You got to be safe, etc. There's big cyclists. Remember, you could drive all the way through Richmond Park. So anyway, I get into the thing. I can see Dave he's got his hood on. He's facing that way, so I see the back of him. I'm thinking, I want to go past him to say hi. He's like, "All right, mate. I heard about you." He's like, "What football team you support?" I'm like, "Arsenal." He's like, "Okay, me and you are good. It's nice to meet you. I never heard about you." I'm like, Jesus, all right. He's like, "Cool. Let me see you push." And for some reason, how you made me feel so comfortable, it took the whole stardom for a minute away that
Yeah.
it's David Weir. It's just a guy telling me to push a chair. And that's why I got so much time for him. So I was going back and forth, doing these 100-meter sprints. I felt I'd do quite good. Anyway, he said, come over. I went over to him. And he's like, do you want the good news or do you want the bad news? Now my heart is really, because remember, I'm not used to nothing good going for me.
Yeah.
Gary's been a legend. He's been an angel. And I'm like, everything's going too smooth. He goes, well, look at this. The bad news is the chair's too big. I'm like, what? Don't tell me that. Like, but the
Yeah.
good news is you're good, you know. And I was like, wow, okay. Because I got an idea though. Because I'm assuming that you want to be part of my team, right? And I was like, hell yeah. He's like, hear this. He's like, oi, come over here. Come with the guy named me cool. Go to my car, please. I'm going to get my white racing chair out of the boot. So I see this chair. I'm like, this chair's dope. He's like, take your wheels off, put them on this one. So I look at Jenny, she's in the background, smiling her head off. I'm thinking, okay, took the wheels off, made the guy put them on. And he was like, no one can ever fit in my wheelchair, but I have a feeling you can. So everyone's coming out to watch now. And because I've got good upper body strength, I can just go on my hands and knees, climb up, slide my legs in,
Yeah.
and I fit in it perfect. Perfect. I'm like, oh Lord, it's all carbon seats. Like you feel like a racer now. This ain't just some training
Yeah.
stuff. And then he was like, go and do some laps. Because the only bad news actually is the heaviest frame. I put a lot of weight on it at that time when I won the certain world records. Because I won world
Uh,
records in this chair. I'm like, rah. And he was like, but hear what? It'd be good for your strength. So it benefit you in theory, as long as you can handle it. Done the laps, I was going twice as fast as I was going in my chair.
yeah.
I was like, wow. So after all that, bear in mind, Gary hasn't seen any of this. He's sitting in the car park. Yeah, yeah, none of the
Gary.
wires are. Yeah. So at the end, he was like, mate, everyone was clapping like, wow, wicked. Like, he's like, granted, look, I got to do some media stuff, but nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you on my team. Blah, blah, blah. I'll probably see you tomorrow. I'm like, wow, why are you going to see you tomorrow? Anyway, he went back his business. Jenny's like, I told you, she gave me a big hug. And the hug I got was the best hug I had in a long time in life, I promise you. And it was just like, I felt like I was part of something. And she
Yeah.
was like, welcome to the team, you're part of the academy. And then that's when my whole life changed because I went from having no employment, nothing to do, twiddling my thumbs, mentally draining myself because I knew I had a lot to offer, but it didn't seem I could find a way to present it.
Yeah.
Here I am. So I used to smoke a lot, like weed in the evenings to be able to
Yeah.
sleep. I had an overactive mindset, whatever. But I just put it out there. I'll never know weed bomb. I was smoking all day and night. No, because sometimes people have the perception of weed. But anyway, I was like, okay, no more weed. I don't smoke weed at night. I want to focus to be an athlete. Like, I feel like I can do something with this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was going. So cut a story short, I ended up going to Richmond Park every day, twice a day, training, doing 20 miles a day in theory. And then I got put on the news. I'll never forget this. I go into the park, hot day, and David had a camera crew. I was like, okay, yeah, he's doing a documentary, whatever, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, it wasn't for the documentary. This was Channel 5, talking about the academy. The same people who spoke about the advert, no, sorry, announced the academy by Channel 5, these are the same people. They're like, Ash, come on the camera. And it said, David Weir gave Ashley Archer this bike, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. And I spoke about the sport and basically what I'm saying to what it does to
Yeah.
me mentally. That's why I explain on it. So I done the clip. I thought, wow, okay, cool. And then later on that day, my nan rings me, and I don't know how she even knows how to use her phone, but she rang my phone and she's like, I saw you on the news. I saw you on the news. Da, da, da. What is this about? Oh, I'm like, huh? Then my neighbor did and whatever else. Then I saw the clip and I was like, wow. Gary was so amazed for me, obviously, and my family and that. And yeah, I just kept my head down training Richmond Park. And then the big break when it came to my confidence is that I got invited to race in the Westminster Mile race,
Uh,
which is right next to the Queen's House Park, the mile, and all of that stuff.
yeah.
And it's a 1 mile race. I was like, okay, cool, I'm up for it. I don't think it'd be a
Why
big deal.
not?
And I remember I don't think this people come and watch this kind of stuff, so I didn't think nothing of it. I trained for 2 weeks extra in that week. Training, I felt good. Felt all right. This is cool. So anyway, go to the event and get to the start line. There's about 10 of us. My coach comes up to me and she was like, "Hear what I'm saying now? David Weir's gonna win, obviously, because he's the man.
Yeah.
But you got to come second." And I'm looking at her like, "Are you high? Like second? No, don't do that to me. That's pressure. I'm
Yeah.
brand new. You're telling me this guy behind me is this, or and these guys been training for this long, and their chairs set up for like we talking about." So we done the race, getting around a bend. I never forget it. So it was like the gun went off. David Weir, I was trying to stay with him much as I can,
Yeah.
and then he just took off. Like, you know, into the next gear, and he just disappeared. Like, he went in fast forward mode. I never forget it. I was like, "Where was that guy?" So I thought, keep pushing, 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 pushing. But I didn't want to burn out because I didn't realize how long a mile was. I'm so used to a mile being a straight, I kind of
Yeah.
knew it. But when you go around a bend and then doing it, I'm like, how much have I got left or whatever? And then it's weird. I went tunnel vision. I could see my coach saying, and going, "Come on, push,
Yeah.
push." And she was going so red. Right, bear in mind, people know Jenny Archer, a lovely white lady, a little short white hair. She went red and white like the Arsenal gear. And she was just like, push. And then I realized where the line was. I thought, I could push into there.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. And then I came second.
Oh my, I like everything in this story. It just goes to show that sometimes in life, even when we think that we're like unsure of what our path is, everything all adds up for a reason. And this is exactly what you're saying, Gary being there and taking you, and then meeting Jenny, and then like all of these people that you meet, and then like getting to where you're going. Like I'm honestly like I'm absolutely enraptured with this story because I'm like I need to know more. Like what else
There's
happened? Like who
more.
else did you
Like, 'cause
meet?
I'm going to tell you, all right, if you really want the whole one, I'm going to give you the whole one. So, again, I ended up being in wheelchair full time in 2013. That's
Uh-huh.
when the racing started and I met David Weir. And the reason for that, part of my condition, I have a slight curvature of spine. So
Yeah.
the way I was wearing my calipers, it was just messing with my spine. I was getting back problems. They were like, it'd be have to be in a wheelchair. From when I was like 15, they kept telling me that. And I was like, no, no, no. So the Paralympics gave me the eye opener because you got to imagine, as I met David Weir and started doing that half of that story, if you leave that for just a back burner for a second, let's talk about the basketball side because I was doing two.
Yeah.
So remember the last bit of that is when I won the Westminster race. I came second. That was my first ever race because I'm gonna go from one side back on if people can clock on.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. And I might not be totally right. I can't remember it all, but basically, I started to play wheelchair basketball.
Yeah.
The first club I went to was a team called London Titans. I met them, and basically, I saw all these cool daily chairs against the wall because everyone's in their basketball chairs. I'm like, wow, look at the wheels on that. Wow, look how that chair looks. What? It was like, it was mind blowing. I'll never forget it. And this woman could hear me talking. I'm like, I'm on my own, talking to myself like I've lost my
Yeah.
mind. I'm like, look at the rims on that. Jesus, you know what? If I could have a chair like that, I'm done walking because walking's getting tiring. But I need a chair like that. The woman's like, excuse me, can I ask you something? Are you new to this kind of life? And I'm like, yeah. We started talking, cut a story short. She was like, my son's an ex-GB boss player. You see him there? He's a junior. I was like, oh, dope. He's like, oh, and I said, but I need to get a wheelchair. I never really had one. But he goes, oh, I get you. We got one for sale. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah. She goes, put it this way, this chair brand new was like 4 grand. I was like, 4 grand? You lost your mind? I ain't even got 40 quid in my bank.
Yeah.
So she was like, no, we can sell it to you for like 400 quid. The cushion alone is worth about 300. So at the end, anyway, I ended up buying that chair off them.
Hmm.
So in wheelchair basketball, I started playing, started doing all right. And then again, do you remember I said when I first started sport, I had food poisoning? So went to this wheelchair basketball event for the team I was playing for in Hackney called the Sparrows. And they're the original first club, I think, ever in the UK, in London, down south.
Hmm.
We ended up playing this legacy tournament kind of thing in UEL University. So
Yeah.
everybody from up north to down south, we're all here in a little team of five, and we just play competition or whatever else, whatever. You have development, and then you've got like the Premier level. So anyway, that day came, and the night before, I was so ill, throwing up the place, dizzy. I had food point. I don't know. I think I had Burger King or something, but it bugged me out. I never forget it. And literally, but this time, instead of someone knocking on my door saying, "Oh, come, come," I was in my bed, but something just kept telling me, "Ash, get up, you should go to that event." I don't know why, but you should go to that
Yeah.
event. I don't know why, you should go to that event. So I jumped in my car, drove to that event, belly all going all weird and whatever else. I missed only one game, and they're probably about 15 games or something.
Yeah.
I scored the most goals than everybody in that low level went together, basically, or something. They said some ridiculous amount of goals, us baskets I was getting in. Anyway, I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I had a great time. I'm about to leave. They're like, oh no, there's a ceremony. You got to wait. Everyone's got. Can people get rewarded for this, that,
Yeah.
and the third? I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm sitting there, and it said the best player, developed player in the country. My name come up. I'm looking. I'm thinking. It went over my head so quick that everyone's looking at me to say like, "Are you gonna come up?"
Yeah,
I
like
thought,
it's your turn to
"Oh
go up and get
yeah."
your award.
So I push on, and who's giving me my reward? Ade. I've got it on Facebook, all the pictures, everything. So you see Ade again, give me my little thing,
Yeah.
medal, shake his hand, and he gave me a signed basketball, which I've still got it now. And yeah, and I had to sit like this with the ball on my lap. I've got there's like hundreds of people on a little stand thing, and I got to take the photos and all that stuff. And how it goes, and I won.
It's almost like for you, like being sick the night before an event is like a good sign. Like, oh, it's and I
But
love that so much because and what I've really taken from your story is that being a disabled athlete, it wasn't always a community that A, you knew existed, and
yeah,
B, wasn't always going to be attainable for you for
yeah,
whatever reason, but actually it's been the best thing because you were welcomed into a community that you knew nothing about, and you fit exactly in. You know how people talk about jigsaw pieces and they say,
yeah,
oh, you can't put like a square peg in a round hole and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like you almost found your home as soon as you
yeah,
found like disability
for
sports
sure,
because
for sure.
all these people were backing you and wanted to help you, and like you was doing really well. Like it's crazy how you can go from not really being involved in racing and basketball to
Exactly.
suddenly within like a couple of weeks winning a race and then winning awards. I think that's incredible, and I think so many people can take goodness from that because you don't
Yeah,
have to be at the top of your game all of the time. Sometimes you just stumble into something and it can be the
you know what?
best thing that's ever
My
happened to you.
my best friend says to me all the time when he met me when I was young. He was like, they used to always call me Wills for obvious reasons, but he's like, Wills, man, I told you nothing's before its time. You're
Yeah,
gonna be all these things you said, and even now, certain things he said 10 years I'm doing now, like
yeah,
right, like even talking to you, like for real. He said you're gonna be the guy who's gonna be exactly like Ade, but without letting how it works with the commercial side or certain things or whatever. I'm very grounded. But I'm very grounded. I could be on the same success as him. I'm still grounded. I'm still gonna go and pull people in and do what I've got to
yeah,
do. So yeah, with basketball, I started doing really well. I played in the third, so I played development, then third, then second, and first. I played a bit in the Prem briefly. I think I played like a game or so, whatever. But I played at all different levels of basketball. But I had to make a choice. It was either wheelchair racing or wheelchair basketball.
yeah,
So I picked wheelchair racing, and yeah, so I got my first race under in this is wheelchair racing. Now we're going back to. So I won that race. I got to meet Mo Farah. That was the
wow,
first day I ever got. That's the first day me when I purchased that chair off the everyday wheelchair. That was my first time out in public in a wheelchair, like doing something, going somewhere. It was, and
yeah,
it felt so light. It just pushing. I was like, this is me. I'm happy. I'm cool. Whatever. So yeah, I won that race, and that's when it all started. Then
yeah,
3 weeks later, I'm training, and they're like, all right, cool. Now it's back to athletics. Like you're a sprinter, so you do 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters. That's your discipline. I'm like, all right,
yeah,
cool, no problem. I did a race in Bedford, one of my favorite tracks ever, and I raced against it was a bunch of like semi decent, whatever. I blew them out of the water clean. I've done 100
mm,
meters in like 16 seconds, 16:03 or something. At that time, that's very good. So
yeah,
then I raced against another guy like a junior champion, and he's number one in the world. This young boy, he's wicked and literally was neck and neck, neck and neck, neck and neck. So I ended up being the third fastest in Great Britain. Then I got invited to Switzerland to get my international license. Now this is where reality really hit me. I get asked, my coach constantly said, Ash, I want you to go to Switzerland. I'm like, Switzerland? I can't afford to go to Switzerland. For what? Get international license so you can compete properly, like professional, go on
yeah.
IPC, which is International Paralympic Committee, I believe. And I was like, all right, cool, but how? Oh, you go with David. What? I don't know if he sees, is he going to die? Because he knows. So I get there. He can't hear this wicked BMW X6. He was sponsored by BMW at the time. It's like, what is it, David? Where? I'm outside his house. I know where he lives. Like
Yeah,
it's at 6 in the morning. Because he's telling me, he's like, yeah, mate, we're going to drive there. And I'm like, what, no flying? He's like,
casually just
no.
drive to Switzerland as you
Yeah,
do.
Yeah, he's like, I don't like flying. I was like, raw. He's like, you never been away like in a car? I was like, yeah, Devon. He's like, no, maybe we try Switzerland today, mate. Yeah, we're getting there by 11, 1, 12 o'clock. I'm like, raw. So anyway, I got the pleasure of sitting next to this guy, driving all the way to Switzerland. I stayed there for like 3 or 4 days off, maybe a week. I can't remember how long I was there for. And I
Yeah.
shared the room with him. So I had one on one with me and David for the whole time. We were drove through McDonald's drive through at night time. We used to crack joke like, and I really got to bond with him and feel like,
Yeah.
wow, you're just a regular guy like me. And you've done all these great, amazing things. The whole England squad who's here to do this competition and get his license, they're only doing it because they're inspired by you. And you're
Yeah.
here sitting like humble pie and cracking up, giving me the most jokes. I'm like, this is surreal. And I actually told him, I was like, bro, you know how I got involved, right? And he didn't really know properly. I was speaking, he was like, what? He was like, swear. Like, yeah, I saw
Yeah.
you. And now I'm sitting with you here, chatting about stuff like this is crazy. So anyway, when I raced in Switzerland, obviously everyone's coming around David Weir, like, who's this young guy? And again, not many races, but me and my mate Jabari were the only black guys racing in the whole of our country.
We always talk about representation in what I do anyway about the disabled community, that it wasn't there for me as a child. Like it doesn't exist. But I can't
So
imagine what it would be like to be a male in a wheelchair and be a black male in a wheelchair, because you're
listen,
right. The only person when someone says that to me is Ade. It is. So
yeah,
I think, wear that massive badge with honor, because you
I tried
don't
to.
know what you've
But
done for someone else. And I think,
for
like,
sure.
isn't like this whole story, I'm so enraptured by it. I'm like, oh my God, I need this as an audio book.
I got to the point of racing, I think I raced for about a year or nine
Mm.
months. Sorry, it was 8 months before I actually went to Switzerland. So
Yeah.
I'm doing well. I'm getting used to the chair. I'm starting to get used to the regime. I'm starting to get into it. And I'm noticing that I'm all right at this sport because I'm realizing guys who are racing for 6 years, their time's slower than mine. And I've been here for six
Yeah.
minutes. So I'm realizing that you might have been racing when I should have been racing as a kid, but I'm on the same level as you already. I'm all right.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was like, boom, you go to Switzerland, whatever, get your license, whatever, whatever. Got the license. So I had to go and do a 100-meter race. So it got to in the UK, I felt so much pressure by people expecting me to be good all the time. I started to not really enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
So when I went to Switzerland, it's like it recharged me because I'm next to a guy who's from Dubai. I'm next to a guy who's from Canada. I'm get against a Chinese guy, all different people around the world. So I didn't feel like the pressure. The crowd ain't my friends and families and the local club. It's around the world. I don't know nobody
Yeah.
apart from the guys in the England squad. But yeah, so I'm in my mind, I'm like, I'm free again. I'm going back to when I first started. Do you know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah.
around guys who do this for 9 years and we got the same kind of speed. I'm like, what?
I love the fact that something that was never really like, and I've already said this, but this is something you stumbled into. Like, you
Sure.
didn't go out and seek this, it
No,
almost found you. And
definitely.
like, I love that so much, because I think there's so much power in stumbling into things, because I think if you're going out to seek, you don't find.
True,
But actually,
true.
if you kind of wait, and actually, I actually wrote down what your friend said to you: nothing is before its time. And I think, like,
Sure.
how important is that for, like, for everyone? But nothing is before its time. And your whole story with racing and basketball, it all seems to be these things happened very, like, naturally. Nothing was
Yeah.
forced, and it almost just kind of unfurled for you, which I just think it's wonderful.
So I ended my racing career 3.5 years in. My short had a displaced scapula. I was meant
Yeah.
to make this squad because I got, yeah, sorry. One little important bit actually, which was another highlight of my journey at the time of wheelchair racing, was I knew a few people in the game, and they always used to say, "Oh, I'm going to GB camp. I want to go. They're going GB camp." So I was like, "I would love to go to GB camp. Like, just be
Mhm.
part of this kind of level, you know? 'Cause everyone's saying I'm good. Let's see what's up." And I'll never forget it. At 11 at night, I got two emails on my phone. One of them was like, "Welcome to Sports Aid." What's Sports Aid? What's this? Click on it and it
Yeah.
says, "All right, congratulations, Ashley. You're part of Sports Aid. You fill out this information and blah blah blah." I was like, "Cool." Then I got another email. So I looked at the other email. Congratulations, Ash. You've been selected by the British Athletics, basically. We want you to come to GB camp. GB camp. I rang my coach Jenny on her house phone at 11:30 at night, and this lady was in her 60s plus.
I bet she loved that. I bet she
She
loved
said,
it.
no. I remember her saying like, yeah, good, well done. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Beep. And I was like, why are you not gas for me? What are you talking about? I see the next day. She's like, well done, but I knew you'd be there. So I went GB camp, got a lot of experience from that. So yeah, I got into a lot of levels of stuff like that. But then at the end of it, my shoulder went. There wasn't much money in it and all these kind of things. So it was like, what do I do? And then, cut a story short, my friend works at BBC London,
Hmm.
and his job is to do content for BBC. So a lot of stuff you see on the news and whatever else, especially in London, he films it. That's his
Yeah.
job. He contacted me one day out of the blue. His wife did, because his wife known me since I was a child. We want to, David wants to talk to you. He wants to get you to do like a positive story on BBC. And I was like, I was a bit,
Yeah.
but I thought, you know what? I'm in the chair. That's my attitude. Like, I don't care. Cool. They
Yeah.
came to my house, filmed me, and then followed me. So you can see the video of me getting into my car. And then we go to David Weir, the
Uh-huh.
track. Biden, I've stopped racing by then. I haven't seen them for a while, but I'm going to see them. They're all part of it. And I'm talking about how great they do.
Yeah.
Put it on the internet, I went mental, got over 1 million views. A lot of people are like, yo, who's this guy? Blah, 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 blah. And then I got my first proper job, 9 to 5, and that was working for the company I got my first wheelchair from. How weird is that?
I love that though. I love that so much because I think it's so cyclical. It's almost like, you're
It gets,
given something and now you're giving back because they gave
yeah,
to you.
yeah. So
And
basically, of
isn't that incredible?
course, because you got to understand, RGK, which is the brand I worked for, their wheelchair is what made me change my whole perspective of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So imagine I bought my first chair secondhand, and then I ended up getting funding and getting a proper one, brand new, made to measure. So I've
Yeah.
always been RGK is like the Rolls Royce of wheelchairs. That's always going to be the case when it comes to the
Yeah.
chairs. You know what I mean? So when they contact me and offer me to basically work there, I'm like, and do what? Are you be the sales guy, the first guy ever to be in London as a sales rep for us? Your job is to go and measure people for sports chairs, day chairs, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like for real? And I said, I'm telling the guy like, Mike, man, like I'm a big fan of this chair. This chair, I was so excited to get my first wheelchair from
Yeah.
you guys. Like now you're offering me to go and be able to do that to people. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, full time, blah 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 blah. Had an interview, got the job, and in 3.5 years of my life working with them, I traveled. I got to work in America, and I got to work with all different people in the country and build people's confidence. And so many
Yeah.
parents met me, and they would just be like, "What? This guy drives. He's got 2 cars. He's got a work van. He's got a car. He's got a kid. He's got a
Yeah.
life. He's got a woman. Like you got everything. You got everything you want. Like wow. Like that's inspiring. It's making me want that. But then I got into modeling, and that's a whole nother story. Yeah.
Well, I heard a sneaky rumor. It's not even a rumor, it's fact. So I don't even know why I said it's a fact, like it's a rumor. But
Mm.
I know that you are wheeling the catwalk for Unhidden.
But yeah, so how do you get into modeling? Okay, that was a okay. I won't go too long, but I'll put it like this. Okay, I think I can't say the names because I don't want to be bad. But basically, I was signed to an agency because
Mhm.
somebody saw me on Instagram and realized we live local. We met up, great model, and she was like, "You can do modeling." She introduced me to a certain agency. I was signed to them. No disrespect to them, it's all love, but I wasn't really getting anywhere. I done 1 or 2
Yeah.
jobs for them, and I'm not blaming them, but they kind of made me feel like it was my image, and I'm like, and my pictures
Yeah.
ain't great. So I'm like, all right, cool. So it messed with my emotions with my agent. I'm like, well, if the client is great. I've done the gym job. They love me off. But
Yeah.
you were basically kind of making me feel like I need to step my game up. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what do I need to do? Do you know what I mean? So I never wanted to do modeling after that. I let it fizzle out. But prior to that, actually, I did a modeling job for Motability before I was signed. And I was on a double spread for the magazine. And it was the anniversary. And I got invited to meet the Queen.
Oh, wow.
And nothing before it's time. This is what happens again.
Yeah.
Somebody who I knew was like, yo, you get into modeling. I have a business. I hired some people with Down syndrome. Their agency seems wicked. You fit their style. I saw the Instagram. I was like, wow, they look cool. All right, cool.
Yeah.
And they got in touch from me without telling me because they knew I wasn't going to do it. So then basically
Yeah.
time went by and I remember them had loads of emails which I never saw because it was my junk mail. But they was like, oh, some guy ran me called Dom. Shout out to Dom, love Dom. He was like, "Hey, I've been trying to get in contact with you, man. Like, you had castings for McVitie's. I like biscuits. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Look, where's your email?" I'm like, "On my phone." He was like, "Mate, look." I was like, "All right, cool. Stay on the phone." I go through my emails, can't see nothing. Go my junk mails. Uh oh. I'm seeing Amazon, I'm seeing VTs, all these different casting things I've got to do. I'm like, oh God. So I was like,
Yeah.
mate, I don't know if I want to do modeling, man. I can't do modeling, man. I tried it with another agency. They sold me a dream like you, man. They ain't gonna do nothing. I ain't gonna get no job.
Yeah.
They're like, I know who you're talking about. We're not them. You see our following, different level to that. I'm like, all right, cool. So I signed with them. 24 hours later, near my birthday, I'll never forget it. I got a phone call from an agent saying, Ash, can you do handstands in your wheelchair? Like, what tricks you can do? I was like, yeah, yeah. I did the handstand, done a video, sent it to them. Half an hour later, I get a phone call. They were like, cool, you are going to do a COVID test. If you pass this COVID test, you might get signed. And I'm not going to tell you really what it is until you get that COVID test because I don't want to,
Yeah.
you know? All right, done a COVID test, passed it, whatever. Next day, actually been you're confirmed. What is it? It's a TV series called Citadel. And Citadel is a series what is led by like the guys who do Avengers and Marvel. The guys who write Marvel, the twin
Yeah.
brothers, whatever they're called. And what your role is, you're going to be an extra. You're going to be a stunt extra. I said, what? What are
Amazing.
you talking about? Cut a story short, Citadel's like some sci-fi, mad thrilling series. They film it in Moscow, everywhere. It's been taking 2 years worth of filming, and now what I'm playing at is that I'm the guy in the HQ who was like an agent back in the day, but ended up in a wheelchair. This one's got this going on, this, that, and the third. But we've got to protect our HQ, and we get invaded. So I ended up working with them for like 3 days a week for about 3 months.
Yeah.
So it kept me busy. Started to really believe that I could do modeling. And then I did a job for the NHS, and it was like introducing us out of the pandemic. You wear a mask when you're out, you tap on your card. So there's a massive picture of me with a lady with a mask on. I'm sitting with a woman at a bar, and you see me smiling and paying on card, and it says like "Welcome back to the world" or whatever, and safety, this, that, first, whatever.
Yeah.
And then with modeling, it happens so quick you forget about it. And then
Yeah.
somebody would like, send me a picture on Instagram, and you see me in a massive shop set on a massive billboard. And then I did the job for IKEA, and that's when it really changed everything for sure.
I think everything that you've done is just you've just stumbled into it, and I think that's like the best way to be because it's not like you just like I said, you haven't seeked out any of this. None of this have you
No,
been like, I'm going to do this, which is going to lead to this, which is going to lead to this, which is going to lead to this. It's not like that, and I think isn't that like the most magical way to be?
I'll be honest with you, I pinch myself every day on a low key. Because imagine this, right? Imagine having this mind frame. I always say to people, yeah, half of me kind of knew that I could do this if I'm
Yeah.
totally honest. But the other half of humbleness and doubt is drowned it out. Yeah,
I think
everything's been
it's
running quite
really,
cool.
really wonderful. Everything, like I've said, I think it's really wonderful that you've everything that you've done because like I said like you haven't chased after it and I think that that's the best part is that it's kind of just come to you and you've worked hard. That's not to say that you haven't, but
Yeah,
everything's
yeah,
kind of flowed quite naturally.
yeah,
And I was wondering, I like to ask everyone if they have a piece of advice for a younger version of themselves, so like a younger version of Ashley,
yeah,
but also a younger person with the same disability as you. And I'm
yeah.
just very intrigued to know what your piece of advice would be because I think everything's happened so naturally for you.
Mm.
I would love to know what your passing wisdom would be.
If there was a younger version of me, I would have said like, never doubt yourself. And for a youngster or anyone in a similar situation who might feel like they're not seeing positive things or etc., I'd
Mm-hmm.
have told them this: use your disadvantage to your advantage, my friend. And my favorite saying is, which I've got a company name, I call it, is rise above limits. I always believe that. I grew up in an area where I've seen people who had nothing wrong with them physically, but they've been through a lot of bad stuff and it knocked them
Yeah.
down and they got back up. One of my best friends who I've grown up with since I was 4 years old, my first friend I ever made. Unfortunately, he's in a very different type of situation now, but he was one I look up to. Now I don't see him. Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say? So I never let my disability be a thing where it has to be a factor of failure all across the board. I beat myself up and done that. Now it's about time to put the energy in a positive and see what I make. I've really beat myself up for how all my life, 20 years deep, knocking
Mm-hmm.
myself, knocking my confidence. I used to MC, on radio and all sorts of big MCs and
Yeah.
all that. And I used to sit with DJ Ironic, what everyone knows of. I had to be around these people and they say, you're wicked. But the confidence, beat myself up, nah, I can't do it. I could have been a
Yeah.
great artist from a long time. I know. Everything started to happen when I was 24. Had my son. So the time I got to 30, my son was 5 years old, I was like, you know what? I have to live for this boy and set good
Yeah.
examples and try and be a good person because when I couldn't do anything, it used to make me feel sad. And everyone knows me, I'm a very upbeat, funny, cheeky person.
Yeah.
So I need to get that spring back. And then that's when the modeling, the sports, all these things came into full circle. And that's why I got the mindset like I do now.
I've got a couple, just a couple of questions, and then I think part two is going to be in the making because there's so much more to say.
Yeah.
I like to think that as disabled people, we kind of all can bond over the bizarre questions that we get asked. And I was wondering, what are some of the weirdest questions you've been asked in relation to your disability?
When I did wheelchair racing,
Hmm.
my nan saw it. Was it my nan or someone in my family saw me? No, lie. It's my good friend Darius's mother. When I actually bumped into her and saw her after, she was like, just a quick question. You cut your legs off to do racing? Because obviously I'm sitting on my knees, so it looks like my legs are cut off. And I said, yeah,
Do you know what? Out of all of the answers that I've had to that question, that might be one of my favorites
real
because
talk.
I just
And
like,
she
I
was
love
dead
that so
serious.
much.
I was like, because I was on a Paralympic advert. That's it. I never
Mm,
got to make it to Rio because I messed my shoulder up. But I ended up doing an advert for the Paralympics. So how weird is that? 2012 in London is what was the advert inspired me. The next
yeah.
Paralympics advert, I'm in it in the front with Hannah Cockcroft right in front, pushing a racing chair. How weird is that?
But it's so great though. And I think that that's, like I said, it's so serendipitous. And like, if you haven't watched It's a Wonderful Life, I really implore you to watch it because I think there'll be things that you pick up from it and you'll understand why I brought up
Yeah, I know
Gary
this one.
being like Klaus.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly, I think it's just, I love what I've heard from you today because it's all so natural and it's flowing. And like you said, you have had hardships. This is not,
Hell yeah.
but there's something very grounding about that because you've had that experience that's not necessarily, and as you said, like it's kept you humble and it's kept you, I don't want to say thankful because I don't think thankful is the right
No,
word,
no,
but I would say
no, it's not
grateful.
gratitude. Gratitude. I
Yeah.
got a lot of gratitude. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful. I take every opportunity very, very serious. Like even when I could have come on here the times you went to meet, I was going mad at myself. Real life because I respect what you're doing. You get
Oh,
it?
thank you.
Of course. Like, I'll be real with you. I'm not even gonna lie because we're being honest on these things. I get a lot of messages from a lot of people,
Hmm.
to do things, do this, from TV shows like Undateables to all these things to everyone who's got a podcast these days who wants to talk about disabled lives. I get
Yeah.
all the time. And bear in mind, even though I'm humble and I understand, but I know a lot of people starting to know who I am now. But it's not
Yeah.
about that. It's a team thing. And so if your stuff is proper, I always will stamp it for
I've
sure.
only got one final question for you, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah,
Ashley, can you now say that you're disabled and proud?
for sure. I'm disabled and proud. A trillion percent for
Oh, I
sure.
love that.
Of course.
I love that. And I love it because, and I love it when everybody says it because I think for so long, the idea of being disabled and proud about being disabled was unheard of and it didn't exist. And having any form of pride in your disability was, it didn't exist. It wasn't heard of. It was kept very much behind closed doors.
Yeah,
How amazing is it that you can now turn around and say, yes, I've been through hardships. My
yeah,
disability did contribute to that. My life wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But then all of a sudden, embracing my disability, embracing who I am, and being proud of my disability has brought me so much goodness. Yes, I'm disabled and proud. How incredible is that?
I'll be totally honest with you. I still find it mad. I think this is why it's humbled me as well. That the amount of years I've wasted not to excel in any way in life because I always thought I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now I've had a good run for all these years. I feel like I'm just playing catch up.
Yeah.
Even though people say, "Mate, you just done IKEA. You're the face of IKEA around Europe, and they repaid you for another year to use it. You've been catch up. Like you caught up, gone. A lot of people can never do that in life. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but that's nothing, bro. Of
I want to take the time to say thank you for coming on the podcast today because
course,
I
man.
have really, like, I'm very engrossed in your story because I think it's a really beautiful one. And it's something that more people need to hear because you stumbled into something, didn't have the best start, but that doesn't mean that it's defined your journey. And I think
Oh,
that that's amazing. And I love hearing stories about people who do well, and I think that it's been so lovely listening to this. And we're gonna have a part two. Like that's not even a
Yeah,
question. And
yeah.
I think what I've really taken from this, and I wrote it down, like I can even show you like on my notebook, the like nothing is before its time.
So
Thank
yeah,
you so much for being on today. I've loved this
pleasure.
episode. And yeah, we'll speak really, really soon.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. It's been great.